let's, everybody ready? Draco, you ready?
Aye, Captain, all right.
Cheryl, ready?
Yep.
Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. Welcome everybody to the Tuesday, November 7th, 2023 Merrill Tourism Commission meeting. It is noon. We are at the Merrill Area Chamber of Commerce. Item number 2, public comment. Is there anybody out there that wishes to make public comment? Second call, public comment. Okay, hearing none, we will move on to item number 3. Review and approve minutes from the May meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second? We have a motion and a second. Okay, any discussion? Hearing none, all of those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It is carried. Item number 4, 2024 budget. We have 2 subcategories in that. A, review 2024 budget, and B, 2024 grant application. So,
Did you get a copy? Do you have a copy of it, Sarah, or do you want one?
I have what you said.
I am going to summarize a little bit of the situation that we are in before we get going on this and before I turn it loose to Clyde. Cheryl had called me this morning, obviously looking at our attendance here. We have 2 members that are unable to attend, and with myself and Sarah, Sue, Nathan here, there are 2 of them, I believe, right, that are on the fair board.
Correct.
That would most likely, I guess,
Abstain from.
recuse themselves from voting, which, and I talked to our city attorney about this after Cheryl alerted me to it. So we can do any and everything that we want here today, with the exception of approving the Lincoln County Fair funding request and ultimately approving the overall operating budget. So with just 2 people being able to vote, that is not enough to approve the fair request. And the other option that we can do, and this what we can decide before we leave here, is whether we want to do another in-person meeting. We have to have 24 hours notice minimum to put an agenda together, officially post it, and give that notice. If we want to try an in-person meeting yet this week, we can do that, or if we wanted to, we can do a phone-in meeting where our IT Dustin would give the numbers. We do have to publish, we still have to do the same with the agenda, but we could do a brief call-in, knowing that we've done all of the work and the discussion here, and then vote via phone yet this week, next week, whenever it works out. But that way we don't leave everybody in limbo, and we can get what we need to get done in a timely fashion. I think we will also discuss at least one member of our tourism commission and see if we can get that person replaced, because we had a similar instance last year that occurred to, I think, the first year when we were going to meet. We ended up having some discussion. We had to leave and then come back. So there's been more than enough notice given for this meeting. It's been
All of our time is very precious to all of us. You know, we have agendas and
Yep.
other things going on, so.
Yep, it's just a simple commitment, and I think
Correct.
the only thing that we ask is, once we put it out there, if people look at their schedule and say, yes, I can do that, or no, I cannot, understanding there are things that come up, but yeah, we have to have a little bit more stability. So I guess with that, I will turn it over to Clyde. If you wouldn't mind going over our 2024 budget, maybe give a little summary on 23 so it helps lend us some history into 2024.
And I sent out earlier the actual numbers from January through December of 2023. Actually, it's through November but there aren't any, there's one, all the payments have been made, I believe, to everyone as far as the grants that were issued. We had last year budgeted $40,075 for grants, and $37,775.24 was used. The Lincoln Logger Barley Fest was canceled, and the Labor Day Classic Show spent $950.24 versus the $1,250 that was budgeted for it. And hockey took half of their money. Everything else was paid out accordingly. Under other promotions of $3,132.83 spent, some of that money went to registering for some trade shows for 2024. We needed to reserve a spot right away for that to occur. Dan and I had talked about that earlier. So that number is a little bit, it's skewed compared to the budget of $500 of the trade shows, because we just, I think it's important that we get out there and do these types of things and promote the community. Conferences was about $1,800 under budget, so that's where some of that money came from to spend for there. Our additional advertising, the $22,000, the majority of that had to deal with the visitor guide. Typically, the visitor guide doesn't cost tourism a dime because the Photo News sells the ads, and they use that money to pay for the publication. Because we extended the visitor guide out to 64 pages, there was an additional, like, I think it was, I don't have the number in front of me, is it $4,800 or something like that? For that
How many
visitor
pages
guide.
had it been, Clyde?
Did we have, what was the number? Was it in the 50s, I think it was? We added 8 or
48, I think.
48, so we
Okay.
added about 12 pages to it.
Okay.
16 pages to it. So it was 64 versus the 48. That was the additional cost
Sure.
to do that. Other than that, everything else, for the most part, has, everything has been in line with what was budgeted last year. It was actual dollar budgeted was $91,000, and the actual dollar spent was $94,000. Currently, the checkbook is sitting at roughly $55,821. No, I'm sorry. 53,425, but that does not include the money we project for the third quarter from tourism dollars, which should be in that neighborhood of roughly, I think it's around $30,000. Visitor tax is up about 11.5% from the previous years that was collected. So I add that to what was projected from the previous year. We're going to have somewhere around that about $85,000 in the checkbook by the end of the year. So that's 23 versus 23 budget versus actual. The 24 budget. Now, when it comes down to it, we underneath other promotions was $8,900. It would cost roughly $7,900 to attend these 4 or 5 trade shows that we're looking at doing, which includes the booth, the hotel rooms, the wages for the people that are attending, and some meals. Iowa, La Crosse, Madison, Green Bay. There's an opportunity. What's that? Tomahawk. There's an opportunity for us to go to State Fair like we did last year. We were there on Saturday, which was the largest attendance. It was 150,000 people there that day that we were down there at State Fair. We gave out all sorts of things for not only here, but also Tomahawk was there, and some Lincoln County materials to draft, which was very good. It was a long day, but it was very nice. And yeah, that should be about it. Those 5 or 6 trade shows that we're talking about in the budget. Hence the $7,900. Rather than changing the administration and rent, leaving that the same, we just included the things into the trade shows, whatever the wages would be.
Right.
The room tax collected in the budget of $105,000 is based upon a projection by the city treasurer in Erdl, estimated in 2024. and that can be found on page 102, and I put that on their Merrill City budget. I looked through that, and that's something that we're using for room tax collected to pay to tourism, the 70%. Carry the Cross, underneath the budget, they requested a general range from $1,000 to $10,000. They were past due on the application date. I think it was about 30 days, somewhere in that neighborhood, if not a little bit more. Promotional items needed for booth setups such as banners and giveaways, bags and things of that nature. The plan when we go down there is to get a hold of the 3 hotels in town and see if we can get a wheel or have people register to get a 2-night stay at a hotel here in town with some chamber bucks that we would throw in and stuff like that, so that we
Sure.
could register people,
Bring
give a
them up
drawing,
there.
bring them up to the area, okay? As a promotion. We talked about the trade shows, additional advertising. We do some additional advertising throughout Wisconsin, and Sarah could have, in various magazines throughout the area that are put out there. I can't, through close publications.
Yeah. Fun in Wisconsin,
One in Wisconsin, yes. A Harley guide, there's a Harley guide, or
a bike.
a biker guide, no,
Yep.
a bike, bicycle, and also
Harley, yeah.
motorized vehicles that we advertise in
ATV.
also. The plan for this year's visitor guide is to emphasize the silent sports. So we're going to have a different picture on the cover. We've asked a number of people to provide us with articles, and they have done that. We can talk about the visitor guide a little bit later, but that's where we're at with the budget from other than grants, okay? And so that's where that's at. I think we've done a fairly decent job here dealing with that.
I think really you have gone out farther than what we used to do for promoting the area, and I think that's wonderful.
And the reason for going to the Iowa show, we're going to try and leverage the dollars the state puts out there. This Discover Wisconsin, Travel Wisconsin does a lot of advertising in that Cedar Rapids,
Cedar
Cedar
Rapids.
Cedar Rapids, Iowa area to draw people up to the state.
Mhm.
You guys are probably already booked at your, it's January 1st, isn't it? For your campground sites?
11 months.
11 months?
11 months out, so.
Okay. But we're trying to get people to come to the community, and it's working. I think it's working.
Yeah, no, and hats off. I think, you said room tax is up 11%, right? 11,
From last
11.5.
year, from the year before.
And
yeah.
it's not a coincidence that, everybody here at the chamber has been working hard to get Merrill out there. I love the revamped visitors guides, that was long overdue in our community here, and just out by us, the amount that we went through this year was probably triple what we've had people ask for or request, or when we put them out, we always had to continue to refresh because people kept grabbing them.
We have one box left
Mm.
of
50.
50 visitor guides. That's all we have left of 10,000 that we're giving out this year.
Wonderful.
A lot of them down at State Fair, a lot of them in other areas.
Are
We
we gonna
we had a booth at the fair,
Yes.
and that took a lot of visitor guides out too. So
Are we going to increase that by a bit, or do you think?
yes, and we can talk about that one. If
Okay.
you want to talk about the visitor guide, that's fine. We're going to go. We can enter this. We're going with a We've used Rindell printing for forever, and I was in a quandary, and Dan and I had this discussion. To print the same 64 pages, the same quality that we had there for Rindell was roughly $13,500, somewhere in that neighborhood. This, the visitor guide this year, the cover will be this 65-pound gloss paper, okay? And the inside, the interior pages will be this pages here on gloss paper. It's a 35 or 40-pound gloss paper. Schumann, I've asked Tim Schreiber from Photo News to get me other bids. For the same size document with this type of paper, it's $7,900. Okay, and so I had a conversation with Rindell, and there's no way that they're able reduce the cost that much. The discussion was recognize that we're using taxpayer dollars in the printing of this. Doesn't mean, I'm switching my head a little bit, doesn't mean the chamber's not gonna use you for certain things.
Correct.
It's just that from a tourism standpoint, we need to watch our dollars. Okay?
Yeah,
So we're gonna go with Schumann out of Fall Creek, I think it is.
it sounded like they were good with it though.
They were, the gentleman was very nice talking to me and gave me some ideas and that asked me for, that's why I got copies. I wanted to make sure that the paper is gonna be a little different.
And as you and I talked to it, at least you went and had the discussion, you know, that Randall Printing is a very, very long-standing anchor business here in the community that has done and continues to do and most likely will do a lot of great things for everybody in our community, so.
They do a fantastic job.
And communication is important too,
Try to
just so they
support
understand.
local when we can.
Yep, and there are certain instances, this being one of them, where if there's over a $5,000 difference, that is quite significant. And they have to run a business too. So,
And we are using taxpayer dollars. It
Yeah.
is using taxpayer dollars there. We're gonna get 13,000 of them, so it's roughly another 1,000. So it's gonna be around $7,500, 8,000. You know, somewhere in that neighborhood, $8,000 to print it up. But we don't see any of that benefit because of the sale of the advertising. Photo News takes care of all of that. We don't have to, my point is we don't have to extend any money out of the tourism budget for 13,000 new brochures this year.
So, with that, I guess, is there anything else that you want to talk about on just the overall budget before we get into?
Well, based upon Ms. Giannerto's estimate of $105,000, it appears that there's, with all the money that's been requested and with the administration and the trade shows and things like that, it's we're over requests are $14,050 more than what's expected to come in. So we've got to find roughly $14,000 to come out of this budget somewhere. And again, in there, like I mentioned before, Carry the Cross asks for $1,000 to $10,000, a general range, okay?
Yep.
And so I put the total of $10,000 in there.
Do we need a motion to approve the printing of the?
No,
No, okay,
that's because there's no cost associated with
okay,
tourism
that's fine.
with that.
Okay. All right, so I guess unless anybody else has any questions, comments, or concerns on the remainder of the budget from other promotions on down, and armed with the information that we are $14,050 over what is anticipated to be our collections for next year, is everyone okay just going how we do typically? Is we'll go in order and what the amount requested, and then just a so instead of having motions for each and every application, we'll go with a suggested amount that everybody agrees upon, and then at the end
Make a general,
yeah. But in this case, we because we don't have enough. More so because of the fair application and the two people that will have to recuse.
They can make recommendations on what the number could be,
Yep.
okay, but not vote on it.
Yep. So.
I mean, technically, if we want to
Hey, Sarah, you hold a
Get all
big
the
stick
power.
today, Sarah.
yeah, Howard, really. Okay, sir, we're nice to
We
you.
work for candy.
Okay.
All right, so I guess first one that I have, I think everyone has this sheet right here. The one that you could just
Did you
use
get
to
it, Sue?
I don't
fill her
think
out.
I have
Yeah, you should. I think it's the last sheet.
Doesn't have a last sheet, okay. I've been going through these.
No, it's not.
No, I don't, so. Okay. Sorry.
It's all right. I was gonna start marking mine up, but
Yeah,
Thank
glad you
goodness.
didn't.
So you didn't have one?
No, nope, I have a lot of other things though, let me tell you.
I got it right here.
Yeah, I know. just
I
realized
can. I mean,
it's
I
nice.
barely
You're
read
fine.
and begin
Yeah.
with myself sometimes.
Okay.
There you go with the cheaters, finally, finally happened.
Thank you.
I got
Okay.
cheaters at home, but that's from my
Okay.
computer.
So the first one is sled dog, and how do you, Doris, is that Lovreen?
Yep,
Lovreen.
that's the new name of,
Alright. So it
you
looks
wanna
like
look at those.
their 2024 request is $400. I was like going backwards and seeing where they were in 2023. They requested 400, spent 200. The year before they requested 400, spent 298. Obviously, this is
2021, there was no sled dog
that's
because of COVID.
yeah.
Looks like in 2020 they spent $511.
Yeah.
So they've been going down.
It depends if they have one.
And remember, the main goal of this advertising for these organizations is to put heads in the bed. So people spend their money so they're
Correct.
in the community, but also in the hotels and generating room tax.
So I got to do this for the 20 whatever straight year. Looking at their application, the Sled Dog Club will use tourism dollars in the surrounding areas, including Wausau, Tomahawk, Antigo, Stevens Point, Medford, Marshfield. We will use free community spots on TV and radio. We'll also use various media outlets on Facebook and our website, as well as community newsletter. It's a unique and a good event. I'm okay with 400, but I wish, and we do this every year, but I wish that they would understand that this is probably not putting heads in the beds if you're
And-
promoting to just the surrounding communities. This has to go further. If we give if we give them 400, can we say that it can't be? It has to be spent outside of a certain.
Radius? I'm
Yeah,
sure
yeah,
you
and I-
can. I believe you can.
I
But
wanna do that.
recognize that a lot of their participants do stay at hotels. Because you see the dogs out there, you see the trucks with the dogs in the back and things of that nature. They do stay at hotels, but I don't know how many of the visitors actually stay at hotels for this.
So they probably have their circuit, and you know, we know this weekend we're going to go to Hurley and whatever.
Yeah.
I would suggest there are other of our possible awardees here in the same boat where
Oh, yeah.
where a lot of the people coming to participate are in the event are, but the people coming to view it maybe don't stay. So that's a good point. I appreciate when they do even mention time in here. I see it does say describe the event with dates and times. I think the time thing is really important because it's when is someone showing up. If they're doing 10 to 2 and it's a one-day event, that may not bring anybody into hotels, but so that was really helpful. I like that they at least did include some of that in there.
And in the this is a small ask in the grand scheme of things.
Correct.
And if you go to $200, I don't know from an advertising standpoint what do you get for 200. What were they ever?
Well, why don't we
what did
go
they
to
get for
300? Why don't we try 300 and just we can tentatively put that down for now.
Do we want for the moment just to say yes, we think we want to do something?
I would think we,
yes.
And then
yeah.
look through
Correct.
numbers when we get to the end and see if there are
We can do
any
that.
that we aren't so sure about. That may answer that question
We
too.
can do that.
Yeah, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, $400 is, taking $100 off isn't gonna get us but they can see we're doing.
Yeah,
Doing something.
and my only point was this is pretty unique. This is
Yeah.
I've gone and watched it. It's fun.
I have two.
But this is one where you almost want to say, well, take 800. But can you do this?
Yeah.
So we get people to come here
Right.
because this is something that is unique. So yeah, if we want to just say yes and then we can fill
Okay.
that slot in when we're done.
Fine. I'm fine with that.
Okay. All right, the second one on the list is Lions Car Show.
See, I didn't have a number on
I'm
my,
about to say, they're,
It's a Labor Day Classic Car Show.
Correct.
That's what it is.
right.
Right, but in their
the amount of
application, they
requested
didn't have-
is blank.
It did not.
It's $1,500 is what we have listed there.
That's because I got the amount and I put it on the spreadsheet and
You got it from them? You called Gary up?
because I highlighted, you didn't have it, so I just,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I saw that too. Okay, I guess, what's anybody's pleasure? This is, again, go ahead.
I think we do want to do something for them. It is, really, people look forward to this event.
Mhm.
I think it helps our,
Yeah, they were beyond 300 cars again last year, and it was 96 degrees. I know this because we put it on.
I know,
I was fried like a French fry by the end of Labor Day.
yeah.
Sure, you handed out some awards, didn't you?
Yeah. Oh yeah. That was warm. But it was even
Yes.
despite all of that though, it was a big crowd. Shorter lasting crowd though. I think there was some people that were.
Fried out.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Well, because what was that? Only 2 weeks after the fair, too.
Yeah,
So I mean, that one.
it was. But they draw people. You know, again, being there all day, the entire day.
No, and I get it's a different crowd than what the fair normally brings in. I mean,
They
some
do
of them
get
are-
people that will come in and spend nights at the hotel Sunday night, so they are there at 7 o'clock to get,
Gotta have the
The
spot.
perfect
Car
spot.
hours and stuff like that.
yeah.
And for the parade too, the
Oh, right.
Labor Day parade, and people come in and say, hey, let's go make a day of it.
Hmm.
So are we okay with? I mean, they're 1,500, or
Well,
I am a little, I'm a little bit, because they really only talk about in the application about the surrounding area, the farthest away they say they do anything is Red Lake. Otherwise, we're not getting Tomahawk, Wausau. So we're in the same boat, that how far away do you wanna pull
I
people
do
in?
know, and this this is Gary's first time filling this out, because I've
Yeah.
had multiple conversations with them in the past, but I do know, and they just didn't capture it in here, some of the flyers that they have,
Postcards.
postcards, there you go, but they're bigger postcards. They take them to Iola. They've got some guys that go to these car shows, so they
So they reach out to the
they
other
do,
Yeah.
yeah, and they hand them out. They just have people going from vehicle to vehicle. I know that's helped them in the past.
And they use our bulk mail, and they send out like,
We send out.
we send out like 700 of them to past registrants and, people that, every year they keep building a database, so they mail out a lot of postcards to people all over.
It has broader reach than it looks like. on
Yes,
the
yes.
Yes, from the application standpoint, the postcard, they mentioned printed posters and postcard mailings. That postcard mailing is, 600-700 or so. A lot of them are outside of the area. They're not a Merrill address. They're from all over the state
And surrounding states.
and the Midwest, yes.
Yeah.
But yes, you guys can say, we're gonna provide you with this money, but you need to have it advertised with, outside of a 10, 15, 20, 30, 50 mile radius of Merrill. If that's what you wanna do.
Yeah, I think they should be, again, we had this conversation last year too, but highly encourage them that their funding is dependent upon putting heads in the beds, generating overnight stays, and I guess, it's on there. It's just not like we shouldn't
And
have to do this, but we
do you
have
wanna define that for them? So, outside the area, to somebody outside the area, it could be Wausau,
correct.
okay, cause it's not Merrill proper.
And that's probably something that we'll have to
It's gotta be something in the legislature.
Well, that's, maybe if we can make note of that, maybe at a meeting in the near future, we have that discussion, then we can look into the legality of, can we stipulate, an advertising halo of 50 miles or 75 miles? I don't know, before we do that, I would like to
Yep.
make sure that we know
When
exactly.
you get 75 miles, you're talking about the Eau Claire, Green Bay, south of Marshfield, Portage
And those
area.
are all realistic visits too,
Mhm.
because if you go too far, then people are gonna say, well, why do I wanna spend my money in Madison, Twin Cities and other, you could spend $3,000 to get 5 people versus, shrinking that down to something more realistic and
Mhm.
getting several hundred people here. So, I guess with that being said, what's everyone's pleasure? What do we wanna?
I think if we're just saying yes or no and we figure the money out later, I think this is a perfectly fine thing to fund at some level.
Okay.
It's a good thing to fund. I don't know what the full amount as of right now, obviously, but that's going off of what they have actually done in the past, and I'd like to still give them a good amount.
Okay, so I'm gonna throw this out there too. Would everyone be okay just giving a suggested amount so that we can?
So we can start whittling it down, yeah.
Yeah, so that, because that way then, when we get through this, and we have the one hiccup with the fair thing that we can't finalize, but at least we know when we're done with the promotional, the grant funds, we have a general idea of, are we in the right ballpark, do we
Okay,
need to?
sure.
Right. My suggestion would be, I don't wanna go less than what they did last year, but my suggestion would be 1,200 to help cut into that $50 that we end up needing to cut. $1,200, they only spent less than $1,000 last year. That 1,200 would still give them that buffer from last year, so.
And 1,100 the year before.
Mhm.
That's fair. Sarah, are you okay?
Yep, that sounds good. Do we wanna go back and talk about the sled dog race, as long as we're doing this now?
The sleds, to me, $400 is not a lot, so I would sit there, say, for right now, let's say $400 for them, and continue to go through it. If we look at it and say, well, we need an additional $100 off here, well, then we can give them the 300 instead.
I agree.
As do I. Perfect, thank you. Okay, next on the list is Lincoln County Fair.
The fair needs $100,000.
Okay, well, we don't have that much in the budget.
Well, I tried.
Yeah.
All right, so the fair is requesting 16,000. Last year, the request was
16,000.
16,000, and they were granted 13,500. Spent the entire amount.
I have to rely on Sue and Clyde for this. I know nothing.
Okay.
Right. Talking with the motel people, they are almost always full during the fair. And some of the people that are there, we have the vendors, we have acts that stay there, but we also have class reunions that come to town. We have family reunions that come to town. And they plan all these events around the fair. And so I know this last year they had at least 3 class reunions. So, and these people stay in the motels because of the fair. So I can testify to that.
So I do have a few questions in the advertising budget for 2023 here. The sheet has the Lincoln County Fair letterhead on it. It has Rhino posters, Rhino brochures, photo news, Tomahawk leader, radio, TV, off the clock. So if somebody, Rhino posters, where
They do our printing of all our posters.
where do they go?
They go to surrounding areas, out of the area in town, they're in town, and surrounding areas to take them to gas stations, motels, places. David's working over in Green Bay, so he takes them over to Green Bay, and you're going over to the Medford area, or west, south. So wherever we could get our board members to
post them up.
yes.
Okay, so then I have the same question for Rhino brochures, $3,000.
It's kind of the same
Mhm.
deal of get them wherever we can.
So what's the difference between posters and brochures?
The posters are
Single sheet.
The single
Yes.
sheet, the brochures are the fair booklet.
like, yes,
Then
that
It's the
has
fair
the
booklet
event.
that's handed out when
So-
people arrive.
Yeah, so look, it's not as big as this, but it's kind of the
Yeah,
same
It's more like this size
Yeah.
with all
Right.
the dates and.
Okay.
And
dates, all the events that are
Events
going
that are
on in
going
it,
on.
all the sponsors that we end up getting.
Mhm,
That people get
mhm.
50 million.
Actually,
This,
50 million
this $16,000 isn't the
I've got-
all-inclusive advertising budget for the fair. That's for the information that Sue put together for the application. There's a lot of radio spots that go on
Yes.
outside of the area.
Yep.
The TV reach, we ended up using Spectrum Charter taglines or the scrolling things in the Green Bay,
Mhm.
Marshfield, Eau Claire area this last year.
So it's
So-
something that we could do.
So then I'm gonna go down the line though too, then Photo News, obviously is a local publication.
Yes. Wherever we put it in the photo news, and then they have another one that they have that's a smaller publication from there that they will put the ad in there also, and it goes to
So they have 30 different, I know
Yes.
we used to do a little bit of this with Barley Fest, but you know, what I would do then would be to talk to Jennifer and say, we want, you know, a package that excludes the Merrill area, but includes Ripon, Shawano,
right.
Eagle
Whitver,
River.
Burnham Wood,
Yeah,
Iron
Right.
River, Michigan.
yeah, is that what this is for?
That is some of it, but it is also in the local because we have to put it local also
Yeah.
because
But that's the part where,
Yes.
from a tourism standpoint,
Mhm.
you know.
Correct.
So what I'm trying to do is, we have three requests here that are, you know, one is 16, one's 20, and the other one is 10-ish, because they weren't sure, but, you know, that's, those are 47% of the entire, tourism budget. Completely understanding that 2 of those 3 are probably 46 or 47% of our touristic draw for just straight up events. So proportionally, I'm good with it, but
Right, I
you know,
understand.
if we're gonna cut, if we have to cut 14 to 15,000, some of it's gonna have to come out of the 3 biggest ones, and because $400 at a time is gonna take us a long time. I'm not a
Well, yeah.
mathlete, but that's
I understand.
where it's, because after that, we don't have much in the, outside of ice drags at 5,000. So.
Do you have any other questions, Dan?
Yeah.
Okay.
Radio,
Go ahead.
where, I guess I'm just looking for detail on here.
We use, the radio stations that we use are JJQ, JMT, and Cameo.
Midwest
Midwest.
Communications.
Midwest Communications, and go by what they have for their draw, like north, south.
And then what's Off the Clock?
Off the Clock is a publication, it's a paper publication that,
Through central part of, through Wisconsin here,
yes.
advertises entertainment.
Mhm.
And so some of the groups that are playing here, within entertainment tent and possibly even the VFW and Eagles tent, okay, that they're in there and they advertising to try and get the roadies to come into town, if you will, right?
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Sue. Yeah, so, I guess, Sarah, it's kind of you and I on this one.
No pressure.
Yeah, but I package these though, again, that's why I wanted to, I have a fairly decent idea what, at least personally, looking at Carry the Cross, rodeo, and the fair. You know, I think that we obviously have to make up some ground with those three. So it's a matter of proportionally,
I hate to throw a wrench into our discussion process, but I think the elephant in the room is the Carry the Cross question mark. It came in late, and I wonder, and it is another big number with, as I looked at it, some things that I would question
There are several
doing
questions
at all.
I have.
So I guess, should we just jump to discuss that one and see if it stays on the table? And then that may make the other decisions about numbers
Sure.
a lot easier.
I think that's a good,
Yep.
way to look at it, so if we can come right back to the fair after
We don't have to.
Well, we can,
Carry the Cross and just jump to Carry the Cross.
yeah, nope, I am good with that.
yeah.
I'm just typing it in now, so that way too we have a
Sweet.
out of some, you don't have to do that.
I'm also kind of jotting it,
Athlete.
I'm jotting it down too a little bit here, just.
I was taking notes, and I get my phone out and add it up.
They make things look pretty.
Because
I
that's
really
kinda
do.
what I
Otherwise, I
was
have to
gonna
take my
do.
shoes off and start using my toes.
Yeah.
All right, so
Okay.
Carry the Cross. This is a 1,000 to 10,000. I know they do use one of our parks. Again, we have, this is the radio, TV, you know, Fulton News, Tomahawk, Anago, Medford Paper Star event will probably be on a Sunday. We'll probably, maybe, with plans that people can stay overnight.
That's my concern. We don't know when it's going to be. Possibly, we don't have anything.
I see why it came late.
Yeah. Well,
I was personally thinking 1,000, taking 9,000 away, but
I mean, they say 1,000 to 10,000 is what they need, or is what they're requesting in here. That's a huge gap to sit there and be like, oh yeah, we would, we would take 10,000, but we'll be happy with 8,000. Well, where are we?
yeah, well, it was late, and
No, and that.
And considerably late.
yes.
I mean, if we're,
Almost a month.
that's a long time. That's not a whoops, I missed the deadline. That's I wasn't paying it. That's kind of my concern with it is that there's no date. They have 3 different potentials. One is to pair it up with the fair. The other one in their description is June or July, depending on, and I understand, depending on artists, but I feel like you gotta have a better goal if you're gonna use the money
You have to
wisely.
have a plan in place and go from there.
Yeah, even if you don't know
You're
that
just
for sure, you have
grabbing,
to have a better.
grabbing from, possibly we could do that, but if we don't do it now, we can do it then, you know.
so can we, I think we can do this, Clyde, but I think we can hit the scratch that out, but also say when they get their stuff together, if we have some funding, if it looks like we have some funding, we can help them, like to the tune of 500-ish or something like that next year if they need a little bit of help, but that would be something that we'd have to discuss. But
Yeah, you can do that, seeing that, I think, if I'm not mistaken, a year ago when someone was late, I think you discounted it like 50% also on what their original request was.
Yeah.
Okay, and on the projected actual cost that Mr. Scheffelbein put together, it goes to advertising, and right here they had $3,000 for $3,408 for actual advertising, and it was a total of roughly $16,000 for the entire event, which if they gave them 10,000 would pay for the band, or a portion of the band and things of that nature to come in. But you can certainly do that and say that you can table this request until more details are finalized by them, okay?
Yeah, cause it isn't fair to the other ones that got their information in orderly and on time, and for lack of better terms, they know what they're doing, where they're doing it, when they're doing it.
Correct, times, dates, places.
So, and according to this, they don't even know
If they're gonna have it at
if
this
they're gonna
point.
have it or when.
I mean, it says right up there before the name of the project, your application must be completed or it will not be considered for funding. And if we don't know when it is, that's you know, the
That's a
fair
big
was
thing,
written
yes.
in, because obviously when those dates were finalized, that
Mhm.
was put there as soon as possible, but this,
Mhm.
you know, it's November.
Yeah.
It's November now and we still don't know.
I'm looking at the saying, I wanna help them in some way, but I don't wanna help them to the tune of what they're asking at this point because it was late, and just say, look, we'll give you,
Well, we can,
You know,
we can
look,
you know, this is a lot of work to get these budgets and this together. This, you know, you just don't, so you have to be serious if you want the funding or not.
no, and I get that, trust me, I fully understand that, I'm just
Mhm.
trying to,
So,
Has this been done before? Did they do this last
I
year?
think
Not,
they
did.
not funded, but
I think they did. this
Last year was
event.
the first year we did it.
Yeah.
yeah, and they had some people, it was an okay turnout, I think,
Mhm.
and I
They
know
changed their original date,
Mhm.
so the
because
original
they
date
didn't
that
know,
we
so that's
had,
part of why they.
yeah.
Again, it could be because of groups and
Right,
free
that-
dates that the band would have, or the people
Sure.
that they would have to come in, that's certainly understandable.
So, I guess, I will lead it off, but I think that right now we budget 0 for them.
Or do you budget,
Right.
do you wanna say budget 500?
I would say budget 500, give them something to, and be
Well,
like,
I'm gonna say budget 0,
okay.
but I'm just throwing it out there, but
Mm.
if they get their date and they get some of these things tied up, or loose ends tied up, that it's something that
We can
we can
consider.
revisit, next spring, or,
Right, because we're gonna meet in the spring again.
yeah,
In May.
Mhm.
so we can,
Which will be before they, yeah.
Mhm.
it'll be before then, but again, this is not enough for us to make a decision, so. And it's not telling them no, you know.
Right.
Like the idea, but we just,
We don't
It's
have
a-
enough information, you don't have a clear date, you don't have
yes,
a clear
even-
amount of request,
Right, clear advertising plan,
yeah. And
who
quite,
are you trying to
and,
reach?
and truly, if you look at this anyways, yeah, if we were to give them 10,000, what are they gonna do, spend 10,000 in advertising? I doubt it,
yeah,
but.
yeah, and it's not a,
I don't think
You
they
know, a
totally
motion
know
to-
the purpose.
to wipe them clean,
Grants.
it's just, for right now, for budgetary purposes, I suggest, budgeting 0, but if they have,
A need.
well, yeah, if they continue with their plans and come up with a date and rectify some of these things, then we could potentially consider some funds for them in the spring.
I'm fine with that.
So when we send the letter out, just gonna indicate that at this time, it's, nothing has been awarded because of, the delinquency and returning it, and that the plan's incomplete,
Yeah,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
And that we'll consider at a later date when the plans are finalized.
I write a ton.
And if funds are available.
Yeah, I write a ton of grants, and I can guarantee you that if I turn one into anybody, anywhere, that says this is what I wanna do, but I'm not quite sure when I wanna do it, or some of these other key details, they'll
Mhm.
write back or call, email, whatever, and say,
Sorry.
no, we like your idea, but when you have
A solid
crystal
plan.
clear plans, let us know.
When
Makes
plans are finalized, okay?
Okay.
Right.
Everyone, that was just my idea, it doesn't mean we gotta do it.
I like
No,
that.
I can agree with that, I mean, they do need to have a clear plan,
Mhm.
and obviously, they don't, so.
All right, well, and then from a budgetary purpose, that
Helps.
helps a lot. That's $10,000 that, which means we gotta get about-
3750.
Yeah. So, let's go,
Fair.
well, we were on the fair.
Yeah.
You wanna, Sarah, you wanna back up?
So I mean, obviously, obviously, funded, it's just a matter of do we, and I don't think even if, I think if the world were perfect and we could do it at the 16 would not be even remotely out of the question. I think it's just a matter of, we'd have to shave something someplace, so do we shave a couple thousand off of this one?
And the next one.
Or 1,000 off of this one, and then, yeah, the two of the biggest,
Yeah.
worthy events, and as you noted, percentage-wise, they probably do draw the biggest number of beds filled, is probably from those two, and things that filter out from them, so obviously completely worthy, it's just
Yeah.
that dollar amount.
Yeah, proportionally, they're reasonable asks. It's just when we have this much to work with, you can only go this much.
And as my brain bounces a little, because that's how it works, some of the smaller ones, as you noted, like $400 in the scheme of things, it made sense to just fund that. They don't have a lot of give in there.
Right.
And so some of those other lesser amounts I'm looking at on the rest of the list kind of don't have the room
Right.
to
Like,
go anywhere with them. These might, so I think in my brain, the three top requests are the ones that we have to flex with.
To get to within the
To
budget
get
part.
to within
Yeah.
the budget, yeah. Obviously, I mean, that's
Yeah.
clearly
No,
that's
and
my
that-
math skills.
no, and you're 100% right. I'm just looking at it, trying to be.
Yeah. What-
Obviously, this is my first time going through all this grant process stuff. So.
If I recall last year, I think because of the fair and the rodeo, it was decided at this committee that they would get the same dollar amount because of because they generate somewhere between around anywhere from 50 to 70,000 people coming to the community for those 5 days of the fair and the 3 days of the rodeo.
Right.
Am I right in that assumption they are somewhat similar even in their broader budgets, if I'm remembering looking at what I was looking at? And number of people you just pointed out, Brent, coming in, I think they're kind of similar events in the
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we just moved
perspective.
this coming year, our youth baseball tournament, we moved it now. It was always the same weekend as the rodeo. We flopped that now to May 31st through June 2nd, so that we bring people into town that weekend, and then the
Hopefully,
rodeo.
they
Well,
come back
that-
the next weekend then too.
Well, that's a very good point,
Yeah.
because I know the hotels are full for the rodeo weekend, but most of them are baseball
In
players.
baseball.
They're in baseball. They're not.
In some of it, we did help one another
Uh-huh.
by having on this, because there was quite a few people. I have to be at the baseball tournament every day
Sure.
all day when they have it, but there are a lot of people that are looking for things to do, and they go to the rodeo and they come
Sure.
back and they love it. You know,
Sure, that.
especially, you know, the last few years we've been drawing teams from Cottage Grove, Milwaukee, Whitefish Bay, you know, some bigger city
Mhm.
people, and for them, they don't see that stuff all that often, so they.
So it was a win-win.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but on the flip side, though, we're still gonna bring these people up
Yes,
anyway.
yes.
And if we're gonna bring.
No, but I believe the county is gonna be working with the city and putting some kayak lifts in somewhere along the Wisconsin River.
Knott's Park.
It's Park, and I think in Riverside Park, there might be possibly Riverside
Riverside, I
Park.
thought was a dock for sure.
Yeah,
but-
depending on, we
They call them lifts or
we
docks.
did request through ARPA, county ARPA funding
Right.
for additional funds for Riverside Park as well.
As of right now, I know it's still in the budget though too, just in case.
And I know I was at the meeting where the county had approved providing the city some funds to enhance the campsites
At-
over at the
Yep,
festival
and
grounds.
I was at that meeting also, and that should, the only times, obviously, the city has talked about this, the only times that the city would not allow anyone to camp there is during the times of the rodeo and the fair. So,
Yep.
that's a lot of additional people though to come into this area. Yes, it wouldn't,
Especially with the prairie and the Wisconsin River and the prairie and everything that it's got to offer.
So.
Sorry, I
No,
kinda
no,
lumped
no,
those
that's
in
okay.
there.
So bottom line, at the end of the day, we are about 3,000-ish away from,
Right, $22,750 from,
we don't have to be exactly on it, you know,
Right.
that's using
A rough estimate.
Kathy's estimate on what we will collect. It's usually we try to get ourselves to a rounded number underneath that a little bit, so we have a little bit of leeway. So I've just been going with 3,000 as our
Okay.
target.
oh,
So
So 15 and 18,
well, so
or no?
the way, I'm just going off of what this committee has done in the past. The way this committee has done it is they have made the rodeo and the fair the same because of those are the two biggest, correct?
we started that last year. We
And it's almost been 2
No,
years.
it's been
2
at
years.
least,
Yeah, it's
Brian Schwartzman was on when I think you
so
first did
it's
it.
only 2 years. The history's right here.
Good,
2
good.
years.
Yeah, cause my first year on the fair board was 2 years ago, and that's when that had started too.
Of course, the numbers are significantly higher
Yeah,
now.
the numbers are significantly different this year. We have, between the fair and the rodeo, we haven't been that, you know, that way in a long time as far as I can recall. But,
Well, the rodeo went to getting the billboards, and that's a big part of their budget, is their,
Increasing the billboard coverage.
yeah.
Okay.
In certain, in the areas that a lot of their ticket sales are coming from,
If we need
utilizing the
to,
billboards.
if we need to cut 3,000, roughly. My suggestion, obviously, I can't vote on this, but my suggestion would be fair 15, rodeo 18. Yeah, we're, the fair, you know, speaking as a fair board member, it kinda sucked not to get the full amount, but if we need as a tourism commission to,
Or you do 16 and 16.
well, if you do 16 and 16, then you're cutting 4.
Which gives you some leeway, especially if you're gonna reconsider anything with Carry the Cross
Right.
going forward.
That's true, you could do that.
No, well, 16 is what fair is asking for.
Correct, so then you're not cutting anything from the fair at that point, but
Yeah.
that's what Dan's suggesting.
But no matter which way you look at it, I'm just spitballing here, but the 16 gets the fair at full request, which, you know, it's nothing to the rodeo. It's still, what, $2,500 more than last year, and it's still 25 for each of them. It's
It's still 2,500 more, no, I'm not disagreeing with it, I'm not, you know, saying it's a bad idea, I was just spitballing some numbers and
Yeah,
going,
as am I,
hey,
too.
we could do that.
so that we don't have to, to cut the fair. That keeps the fair.
And keeps them at the same
At their
amount,
request, and it's still it's an increase of
funds for
over
the
$2
rodeo.
grand for each
Yeah.
one, but it doesn't have to be that. I don't know, what's it, anybody else? So we've got one for a 15 and a what, 18? You said?
15 and 18,
15,
yeah,
18,
to get that 3,000. I like your idea a little bit
See,
better,
kids.
mostly because then it does give us that extra 1,000 to play with, or or even if it's 1,000, let's say Kathy's numbers are up and we're actually less than 1,000. I'm not saying she is, but
If we collect more, that is the greatest problem in the world to have.
Correct.
Right.
And we always hope that is the case to be.
right. But let's say she is 1,000 less. I'm not saying she was wrong.
But recognize that the dollar amount in that checkbook has grown over time.
Mhm.
Because we didn't have a lot of, tourism didn't have a lot of room tax collected. There was one hotel that wasn't paying it, 2 hotels that weren't paying it for a while. Okay, now they, all 3 of them are paying it. Some of them are coming in a little late. We've seen an uptick, that 11 to 13% increase in room tax revenues, which is a great thing. Means more people are coming into the community.
And we achieved that. We achieved that continued growth by. I don't want to come across as cheap because I'm not. We want to utilize
Continue
this
to-
funding as effectively as we can.
Right, no, and this is just an observer. Obviously, I haven't been on the politics scene for I've been on it for a hot minute, let's put it that way. Just looking at this, it's like if the number coming in is less, we're giving ourselves a little leeway. Obviously, we want the number to be more, and it's looking like it's gonna be more. So that gives us enough to be like, if someone comes up and says, hey, I could use 1,000, 2,000, here's my plan, and we can sit there and go, done. It's, go do it, here's your advertising money. I'm just, it's been a
Have we
while,
ever
so.
opened up a mid-year option with this, if we do invite?
We haven't, we have discussed, it's been a number of years since we discussed it, but, one of the things, it's only been, was this our second year that we flipped over to calendar year?
Yeah,
We used to do the
May, yeah.
May through or May 1st through April 30th, and what we found though was it was difficult to get grant funding applications. It was so hypothetical then, every time we talked about it, because we should, maybe be able to fund that. I think we could, I'm not quite sure.
Yeah,
So it took us a year and a half then to transition away to that, to get to an actual fiscal January 1 through December 31st.
Just, this isn't well thought out, it is just me throwing it out, but I wonder if that's a solution with the Carry the Cross concern as well, is if we find out we've got, what do you know, we've got $3,000 that we didn't know we would have within this year. If we say, great, whatever the date is there anybody, we put another announcement out and say, is there anybody who could use some advertising dollars in the next 6 months? And we don't mess with this calendar, we don't mess with next year's calendar, but we say we have extra money that we might be able to offer. And then Carry the Cross could reapply
With a
For new
complete
applicants, for new
application,
applicant.
and it would also not be a favoritism thing, because we are saying you have to have it, here's your application, it should be right, and if we're not, then we're not following our own rules. But it might be that would give us the ability to still put money out there and help people if we've got it, but not be obligated to do it if it's not there.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I think we might be able to capture, and some of these might be some littler things that might be able to generate a couple overnight stays in some of those straddle shoulder seasons where you typically wouldn't get that.
yeah.
It might encourage some other people to apply.
No, I was just, my mind's going, like with the fair, I mean, if we do give them 16,000, that's how much from last year, and how are they gonna use it? So, like in the past we've looked at where, okay, if we give them this much, we've increased it by this dollar amount, we want proof that they're gonna use it. Like with the rodeo, the 20 grand that they're asking for is high, but it's worth it. But also, where are they gonna use those funds different from last year?
If I recall last year, Cheryl's comment is correct, that we bumped up the money to the fair to match the rodeo, but that extra money had to be spent outside the normal marketing area.
Thank you.
That's
Wasn't it
happened
like $1,500 or $2,000? I can't remember
Yeah.
what it was.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's happened a few different
I
years.
can't
for-
remember
Yeah.
what it was.
So that's what I'm trying to get across, is that if we give them so much money, and we did question before, earlier in the meeting, how the money was spent, like through the photo news and the radio stations, if they do get more money, how are they gonna show us that they're gonna advertise without over a 50-mile radius? With the extra funding, could they take out a billboard somewhere, or,
We have checked into this, and I think, I filled this out, and I'm being realistic. Obviously, the fair could have asked for more money, and I'm being realistic on this. We did some advertising on Spectrum, the things that we had not done before, and I think we did see the increase. There's ways that we can do that, but I was realistic when we filled this up. I could have put, a lot higher
20,000,
number,
yeah.
because we have looked into billboards, and it's not that we're not. We checked into it, and
expensive.
Yeah, they are expensive.
Yeah.
Well, and that's appreciated. There's 9 others that probably would say the same
Yeah.
thing, you know,
Yeah.
they would gladly ask for more.
Oh, right.
Mhm.
And yeah, to your point, that is the reason why, you know, we do this. If we're gonna continue to invest, if there's growth, you invest in growth so that it equals growth.
Right.
That makes sense. It was,
And you know, and we could tell that we got people from out of the area, down in the Madison area, Verona, just at the butter carving. That's what they were watching and saying, oh, this is, you know, we didn't ever do this down, you know, where we are. And so, you know, you ask them where they're from. So that,
yeah,
you
that's
can see it's paying off.
it's awesome.
I think there's the thing to look at if we're going 16-16. Cheryl's right in saying that, you know, we gave them
It's a drastic.
13.5 last year. We're giving you 16 this year. What are you going to do with that additional 2.5? Well, you most likely, if the fair and the rodeo do what they should do with that 2.5, is get even farther out than they did the previous year. I know the fair has done that every year that we've gotten an increase as long as I've been on the board. Sue and Clyde have done very well with that.
No, that wasn't Sue and Clyde, it was Sarah. Or, what's her name? Yeah.
Yeah, well, you were helping.
Sure.
Has tourism ever considered, or I don't know who it would necessarily be, but as we're, you know, this is my first time sitting through this and hearing all of this. I'm wondering how do we know, like, obviously it's up to each committee and it's to each their own and it's whoever can get involved can, and whether they're willing to learn or not. But is there ever a consideration of providing any education on like the who, what's, when's, where's kind of thing of advertising, you know, utilizing billboards, why you would want to go out to Madison or Cedar Rapids, or in that conversation sense of pooling our minds and pooling the resources and things like that. And you know what I'm trying to say? Like,
I do.
we're giving them money, but what kind of education do you have on, one, marketing, and two, what the other organizations are doing, and maybe you guys can piggyback and learn from each other, if that makes sense.
It makes a ton of sense. If there was the ability to include with the grant award, or the letter of non-award, whatever you want to call it, with a, you know, congratulations, we are funding you at $1,500. Attached is a little suggestion of, you know, here's what it is, this, that. If you have questions or something, you know.
Yep. We it's been added into the. That's been added into the letter. I remember a couple years ago we did put that in the description, that they had to make sure that they used it outside the Merrill area for advertising. So maybe we need to put a 50-mile radius.
And that's something that legally we'll have to
Yeah, we'll have to talk
come
to
up
Tom.
with, but I think to Sarah's point too, I do like that.
Right.
And so how do we,
These
How do-
people are volunteers on most
Right,
of these.
They are.
You know,
exactly.
like
Yeah.
you say, he's a teacher and things like that, and he's trying to run this program.
Right.
They're not in marketing,
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
obviously, you would appreciate some help, or say, yes, this is
I
where
mean,
you should
obviously
go.
these people are committed to their events because
Correct.
they're taking the time to fill out a grant.
Yep.
Correct.
And I'm not saying I
run
have
the
any
program.
resource or any necessarily education, but I also think that maybe there is someone you can bring in on the cheap or free or whatever, or even just getting them all, hey, would you be willing to all sit down together and just like, okay, what is the fair and what is the rodeo doing? Like, because are they even knowing what they're doing and how they're doing this kind of thing, and learn from those two big funding ones.
And maybe what we can do is provide some sort of a training from a chamber standpoint. And I'm switching my hat around here, because I know Mark Bars is involved in a lot of marketing. He's got his own marketing companies himself, and I'm sure we can get professionals from MMC and from the Photo News or somebody, you know, to come in and maybe have a 2-hour marketing marketing session for this and call people. Okay, Mark Bars, you got 25 minutes to tell us about your type of marketing. Okay, the photo news has this, the radio station has this, whatever radio station, so they have a general sense of what, or Lamar may come in. You know, Travel Wisconsin maybe come in because there's some opportunities to co-op for ads and things of that nature on their billboard site somewhere to reduce the cost.
And it might be
And GEM grants.
included with that, it might be also beneficial to just have a shared list of
marketing.
contacts.
Sure.
So, you know, like, I know we had people for me, like when we do Barley Fest, you know, Eric Dalvig from over here and you know, Grassman from over in Shawano, Green Bay area, this radio station, that radio station, these are all things that are outside of that. You know, they're pretty reasonable, it's a good way to get things, but these are some radio stations, some print ads that are outside the area, people that have contacts, easy way to get a hold of people. Because
But at the same time, we're not endorsing them, we're just providing them with a list of potential advertisers
Yeah, no,
outside the
right.
area.
yeah, they're
Because
just,
you
they're
can't
kinda-
endorse, or if
No.
you start endorsing it, then we're gonna be in a world of hurt.
Then people are thinking we're taking kickbacks, but no, you have to
Well, aren't
have, you have to have, yeah. You have to have, yeah, of
Wish.
course. You have to have,
Resources.
resources.
It's a resource
because-
guy.
And you
because-
can't be in competition with each other because that's not what this is either.
No, and
No.
we want events every single weekend and every day, you know, throughout the entire calendar year, but for some of these people, they probably, they do what they do because it's fairly easy to reach out to the photo news and say, because the photo news stops by their place of business, or they know them, or it's their cousin's uncle's aunt that lives next door and has a dog that runs into their yard once in a while that they know how to talk to. That's
Right.
usually how that goes, but you know, if there is a way, that's a good idea. I know we had not as in-depth of a discussion on that, but we had noticed the trend of some of our applications leading up to a couple of years ago. It was just like, you know,
Just copy and paste.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it was
And
kind
it's,
of
yeah.
willy-nilly. So,
And I mean, I don't know if like some of these companies, like if with the billboard, okay, let's say, you know, rodeo's getting the billboard, but is it something that other people could tack onto and maybe reduce the price? Because let's say the fair goes to get the billboard, you know, so they go from the rodeo straight to the fair.
Lamar
Could they-
doesn't bill it that way.
Okay.
The rodeo wants it for this time, they're gonna bill it for that time, and then the next person wants it,
Okay.
and then it's Sierra Pacific for jobs, and then it's this, and then it's that.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I mean, I was
Yep.
wondering if there's some kind of resource that, okay, where
Well, through the co-op program through Travel Wisconsin or Discover Wisconsin, Travel Wisconsin, I think it is, there's opportunities to do some of that.
yeah, where you
Digital
kinda-
billboards throughout the state.
something where people can piggyback and.
But those billboards are pretty much taken,
A year in advance.
yes, because I contacted it. Oh, we don't have anything,
Especially where you, obviously, where you want them to is, if you want them on the high profile roads, cost is a little bit better than if it's on County G in Lincoln County. Okay?
sure, makes sense.
yes.
Makes sense.
Okay.
All right, so yeah, I guess with that being said, what's everybody's pleasure? We were,
Okay, Sarah, you're in charge.
I think, yeah,
we're stuck directly
Sarah-
between
Yeah.
how to make up our $3-ish
Yeah.
thousand
So
dollars.
so the conversation was putting both, if I'm remembering, putting both of them at 16?
Yeah, that was
Or leaving maybe
the
that-
conversation.
The kind of most recent proposal on the table.
Yeah.
And again, we,
And obviously, we wouldn't be able to vote on that as of right now.
no, but somehow if we can get these last two at least suggested out, that puts us in a position to where we can either, you know, reconvene here later this week or early next week and vote. It gives us numbers, it gives
Sure.
us.
I
At least
think
we're in the ballpark, and we have our homework almost done.
I think it's a reasonable, suggestion.
Yeah, and
That's the best I can say, and obviously can't vote on it, but
Yeah.
I think it is as well, and partially because the two events having some similarity in scope, perhaps is the way of saying it. Obviously, it's slightly different audiences, but they're bringing people in for multiple days. That gives us we're still looking at the same number and the same kind of goal. The comment that you mentioned from last year about whoever said it about the 3 days versus 5 days. The advertising is still the same. Doesn't matter if you're bringing them in for 1 or for 10. The cost of an advertising, a cost of a billboard, a cost of a radio ad is the same. So I think that part isn't necessarily as relevant as the number of people coming in and how well it's seen and how well it's
You're right in that perspective, but we do have to think too when we're looking at the money that that this advertising is supposed to generate. It's about stays in the hotel.
Right.
So I'm sitting
That
there
is true.
thinking, if
Right.
3 days compared to 5, okay, people are going to stay for 5 days here in order to attend the fair every single day.
Right.
Not saying it actually happens, but I'm sure it does. Compared to 3 days for the rodeo, that's
Some people
Where
stay
that
a
number-
week, some people
Yep.
stay a week for the fair.
Well,
because
Some
they know
people
that-
stay a week for the rodeo.
Yeah.
Rodeo
well, no,
also.
and I get that too,
Right,
and
no,
obviously,
But these
but
are
that's-
vendors that are
that's
paying.
that's where
to,
the
you know,
that's where those
see them.
numbers come in, and that's the only thing. That's what my mind goes to. I get advertising, no matter what. You're gonna spend it for a week, 2 weeks, whatever it is. That's not gonna change.
So I'll throw this out there, if either one of these entities can prove which one draws more overnight stays, then we'll fund the other one more, or that one more. Seriously, I'm serious.
And the only way to
To know
do
that
that
for
is
sure.
to have the hotels ask when people are checked in.
Mhm.
Have a survey of some
Or
kind.
for your tickets, we did this for Barley Fest though, is we have bed and brew package, if you work with the hotels, and how many people did you have? We did, it took a little extra effort to go out in advance, but talk to the hotels and say, would you be interested and willing to do a bed and brew package? We put it right on our website, and then we would just collect that information, they had the tickets and all that stuff. If we want to get fully quantitative, that is the way to get quantitative.
Yeah, no, and I'm not saying that we need to do that. Obviously,
No, but
I think that would more be up to the fair and the rodeo at that
It-
point. If they really
you know-
want to try to fight for more money, I think that'd be up to those two entities and not this
Well,
commission here.
But we're the ones that have the money.
Right, and as Clyde said, you have to work with the hotels and say, okay, are you just visiting? Are you here because of one of the events this weekend, or something like that? No, no, I have my class reunion, but we're going to be going to the fair. No, I just came for the baseball, and then we're going to be going to the rodeo.
And it's, it doesn't have to be that way, but I'm just saying, that there are ways to at least narrow that down.
to narrow it,
Right.
no, and I get that, I understand that, and I'm not saying it's a bad idea, I actually think it's a really good idea, but at this point in time too, precedent has been set of these two are getting the same amount.
And that's, it's just, we don't
And I think
need,
if we had someone from the motels here, either Mike from
American or.
No, but it's Kathy.
yeah, Kathy, but I mean the cobblestone.
Kettle, is
Ke-
he still there?
Okay.
Kettle?
No, Kay's not there anymore. It's a Mike is.
Okay, anyways,
Yeah, he was on the committee a couple of years ago.
Kay was, yes.
Cattell was.
Cattell was.
Yeah, I remember him.
Yes.
Yeah, so, yeah, we can, I think we could probably amicably debate this one for the remainder of the day.
I did, in fact, when I talked to Kathy about the meeting, I did ask her if she could do a research and go back to see how many rooms were used for each event, just so we'd have an idea at least at American. So I did ask her to do that. She said she would. So, but she's not here, so we don't have that information.
I talked to Mike at the Cobblestone, and he was pleasantly surprised how many from the fair, because I told him you're going to be getting this new year, but He's another one to talk
And
with.
it's a matter of people willing to fill out the survey. We can put the survey in the rooms if you want, or whatever the case is, but
Yeah.
like you said, we could debate this all day long. But recognize that some of the participants in the event, such as the carnival, okay, they have their own campers, they haul their fifth wheelers, they're there, but it's the people that draw in. It's no different than the rodeo. The participants have their horse trailers and they've got housing facilities right there within, within their camper and stuff like that. But it's the people that come in from outside of town, and both of them do a fantastic job. If I were to say anything, even though I sit on the fair board, I think the rodeo does a really good job of advertising their event, more so than the fair has in
Yeah,
the
no,
last few
they
years.
have done an amazing job at that.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, great.
So
So when you look at it, if we just go by last year, 2023 request,
Okay.
for the fair was 16 and it was 13.5 awarded. Rodeo 20, they asked for 20 again last year and were awarded 13.5. So no matter which way you look at it, I'm just using my example of 16 and 16. This gets the fair to the fully funded request that they asked for last year. It's 2,500 more. And actually, for the rodeo who asked for 20 and got 13.5,
it's still giving them a step
it's
up.
still giving them a step up.
No.
Nobody's losing on this. Again, you're still getting $2,500 bump from. So it's not like the rodeo isn't losing 4,000. They're gaining 2,500.
And from our perspective, 2021, 4,000 and 6,500 were the requests.
Yes.
So this is a considerable amount of money,
More than previous
more
years.
than
Yep.
3 years ago.
Yep.
Yeah.
To spend, so yeah, I don't think,
Right.
and we've got.
And it's obviously not out of the
let's
realm
use
of
it.
something we
Right.
can
Right.
do. It's easily doable. So
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Is everyone okay with that?
we just have to figure out date and time of our next meeting.
Other than
No.
the grants are all approved with the exception of the
Of the
fair.
fair.
Correct.
Yep.
Is that what you're asking
No,
for?
so we haven't.
Or we haven't approved it.
Yeah, we haven't approved
Yeah, I
We
know.
haven't approved
anything
anything
Yeah.
yet.
So
yet.
what we have, technically what we have to do is we're missing Kathy and Ratliff, and if he's done, he's done. But we would need Kathy from
Yep.
American to either be present or phone in, because then that would allow for myself, Sarah, and Kathy to handle the fair one. We have to have at least 3 people that could do that.
You have to have a quorum.
And
Yeah.
we.
So we
I
do
would-
everything, all of that during that phone in,
Yep, phone in if we wanted to.
and then obviously you two recuse yourselves from the one.
From the one.
vote, But
Yeah.
otherwise, we include whomever is on that phone call then for the rest as well.
Yes.
Not to do those today and,
Well,
Correct,
could-
yeah, so,
We could do those today and just,
But you can
hold
do
off
those
the
today
fair.
and pull off the fair.
and then,
yeah, it's potato at this
Yeah.
point, because no matter, if we want to approve we don't
Well,
want to
yeah,
approve a
because
tentative
it-
anything, because then it's
Well,
tentative.
no, you
yeah, cause then if she's like, well, no, we don't want, or maybe you should do,
So we have, what we were talking about before,
Yeah.
what I talked to city attorney about is can we agree on the framework, if we work this through, knowing that it's down to Sarah and I, and you two are going to recuse yourself, that we don't have enough, even if we wanted to vote on it's because overall, at least for the promotional applications, the grant applications, to do that, you two would have to recuse yourselves of voting at least on one of those things, so it's still only
yeah,
tentative.
Right.
So we don't, that's why we just.
we don't save anything to try to do
Correct.
some of it.
Right, so we're still we're still tentative on one because.
We're still treading water.
yeah.
Yeah.
So what I can do is I can put the
The
numbers in.
recommendations of the committee.
Recommendations that we have right now that Clyde said, I can get that and I can email it to everyone. And then, if we have to do a
Phone date.
phone call.
We're gonna have to do a phone date or a in
Yeah.
person.
Or
in
even if you
person.
wanna hop in here, what, you wanna email that to everybody then, so
Mhm.
let's find a date.
Happy
a date
A
and a
happy
time
date.
that work, yep, and even if it means, you know, if as a group we come up with a, you know, 1
Okay.
o'clock on a Monday or something where we, and I can get Dustin to, we're still gonna have to agenda it the right way.
Yep, we have
Yep.
to have it 24
Public
hours.
comment and everything else, yep.
Yep.
So, and if.
Just a
if-
short agenda.
It will be, yeah, so.
Hopefully it's a short 15-minute meeting and we,
So it will, and it will be number 5 is what it's gonna be. We have to do the other stuff, you know, we'll have to do call to order, public comment, but it'll be.
Go to the
approved for
minutes,
2024
yada,
budget.
yada, yada.
yeah.
Because by approving the 2024 budget, then it codifies everything we just did for the grant, because they all are all part of that.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so with that being said, then we cannot do 5. We just went through that. We will accomplish that as soon as we find the next available date where we have Kathy, Sarah, and I.
You wanna table it, you want a motion to table number 5 then?
You have to.
Yeah, a motion to table 5 to the next meeting.
And I can second that.
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
Can't be any discussion for a tabling.
No
What is
discussion. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. So then 6, date time for the next meeting, that is
That is
to be determined. We will.
The call of the chair.
Yep. So that'll be at the next available time when we can get
Everyone together.
our other person. Right. Item 7, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move. I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Yeah,
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thanks, everybody.